Hey everyone, welcome to Uma Talks with Natalie Romash and Rita Kakati-Shah. Hey Rita!
Hey Natalie, hi everyone.
Guys, today we will talk about a pretty hot topic these days because it is differences and currently a lot of things are discussed in the media and we were talking about differences about 2 weeks on our Instagram and got pretty good feedback from our community. So I'd like us to start from the question from one of our community members. And her name is Daisy, and Daisy is giving us feedback on our definition of diversity. Because we're talking about appreciation and understanding your personality, your quirks, your talents. And Daisy is asking, how can I celebrate my personality and my differences? Because I tried to do it multiple times, but I felt vulnerable in the end instead of being more confident. So Rita, uh, as all we know that sometimes we appreciate our differences and sometimes it's things that make us freak out. So how to deal with that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And Daisy, thank you so much for reaching out. And that is a really, really great question. So one thing I noticed that you mentioned, diversity in the first aspect. So I think when you think about diversity, when you think about differences, difference is basically what makes you, Daisy, what makes me, what makes Natalie who Natalie is as well. It makes us all unique. And it's basically not trying to necessarily say, let's all go and flaunt what our differences are. We don't have to just go out this, oh, well, what's your favorite color? Well, this is mine. It's more that saying, okay, I might have my own opinion. You might have yours. Let's be happy with that. And let's be proud of that. That makes you who you are. So I think in terms of just being confident, knowing that that is fine. You are who you are. And have that debate. So the whole topic on differences isn't about just going out there and letting the whole world know up front, okay, this is who I am. This is who you are. It's about, just sharing something about yourself when other people share about themselves too. So knowing that, okay, tell me about you. Where were you from? How did you grow up? Or little questions like that could be what does it to you. So the whole point of it is supposed to make you feel more empowered and proud of sharing whatever fact you're going to share about yourself. And that's where the confidence comes in. So yes, sometimes if you share something for the first time, you can feel a little bit sort of exposed or vulnerable, if you like. But, ask somebody else first. You could start the question off, especially if it makes you nervous, and say, tell me about yourself. How long have you worked here? Or what do you like about that special topic or something? And then share about yourself too. Because that way it opens up, it's a fairer ground, and it makes you feel better. It's all about sort of opening up and get to know everyone better.
Thank you, Rita and Daisy. I hope you hear us and please just take time, reflect on what Rita was sharing, and I hope you will feel more confident, more empowered, and will use your differences as your benefit. And so I'm so happy that we discussed this, and I'd like us to jump to the next question because it is also about differences. And Rita, I know that differences, it can be like kind of like controversial when it comes to understanding like ourselves, like as a human being, as like some type of like body, some type of skin, some type of like hate, and all other like, it can be like physical differences, or it can be like where are we from, it can be little accents and other little like different differences and details. And guys, you know what? When we look at celebrities and at the media world, and even at the big brands, the differences, it's what is celebrated. It's what makes Beyonce Beyonce, what makes David Bowie, how he was, and all their fans love them. And we at the world of celebrity, there is literally no like copycats and not we can't even find two personalities who literally look the same.
Yeah.
And Rita, yeah, and Rita, when we come to our like personal life, we all as a human beings have this kind of herd mentality. So when we are too different from others, it makes us feel uncomfortable, and we all have in some level tendency to be like the people that are surrounding us. And in this case, our differences can make us literally like freak out and can be make us too like shy. And then, hey, I rather they won't like say because I'm different or because I have different opinion or whatever. And what I discovered with our community, that when you have these like mental kind of like conflicts, and when you're shy about your differences, it's literally hard for you to communicate your values, your beliefs, what you bring, what you can bring to the table, whether it is in the meeting or when you're getting a new job or when you can get promoted. Like it happens like absolutely everywhere. So what is the strategy? How can we balance feeling good about differences and feeling like not that good about differences as well?
Yeah, you know what, that's it's something we all think about all the time. So, you know, as you said, like anybody who is famous or has celebrity status out there, you know, they are part of the entertainment industry, and they're someone that, you know, takes us out of our daily lives. It is almost like our break from reality, that way of thinking, wow, look at that empowerment, look how they compose themselves, look how they sing, look how they're just carefree about the world and their life. So that is one way of almost exposing our inner side, or just getting out there through these other incredible personalities. What we can do for ourselves, and here's the thing, I always tell people that yes, we are all different, we're all unique, but there is also a time and a place of how to display those differences. For example, you know, on just a general day when you're in the office, for example, if you are just always just flaunting your different way of working and things like that, you can actually cause controversy, because, you know, people work in a team in most cases. And if you do that, there's a certain style of doing things. There is a certain culture to adhere to. So basically, I think what your question is alluding to a little bit is, how do you maintain that workplace culture, but your personality at the same time? And there are definitely ways of doing that. So if there is a task at hand, you get that task done. At the end of the day, it's hard work that is going to stand you ahead in work. You know, but then how do you interact with those colleagues outside of work? How do you share your stories? You don't necessarily really have time to do that during the day. You're busy working anyway. But then how do you bond with your colleagues afterwards? How you get along with people really ultimately lets you decide, you know what, I love working where I am because I just really love my colleagues. And that is part of that. That's where you get to share your own stories, you get to celebrate your differences, but at the same time, don't forget, you're there to work, you're there to get your job done. So that's the thing. It's about, you know, just compromising, about listening, first and foremost, getting what is supposed to be done first from a work perspective, and at the same time sort of embellishing who you are, letting that personality come out in different ways. So I think that should hopefully help you a little bit. It's sort of categorizing the different forms and when and how these differences should come out a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Rita. And we have pretty much a similar like question that continues things that you shared, and it is from our community member. Her name is Samantha, and Samantha just became a manager of very like newly formed team, and her team is completely diverse. So people are from different backgrounds, from different cultures, from different parts of the world, and right now they are working together. And Samantha is asking, how can I help for my team members to overcome the biases and to get along better, and to maybe practically listen or to understand each one better? And I think for Samantha, it can be even like a bit more challenging because the team is like brand new and the culture is literally forming right now.
Yeah, you know, great question. So for starters, Samantha, congratulations on your role, and also on your team structure. It really sounds like you're really kind of trying to make the effort to just bring people in from different backgrounds. So I would say, in terms of just getting the voices heard, there are different formats to do it. So one of the reasons you hire diverse teams, you hire people from different parts of the world, from different cultures, is to let their backgrounds and their experiences influence what you're doing at work. So there's two ways of looking at it. One is that you hire people from different parts of the world, and yes, you've checked some boxes off from a company perspective. But then the second part is, well, then what do you do about that? How does it actually impact what you're doing at work? So ultimately, the work needs to be done. There are deadlines that are set. You know, your client or whoever's on the receiving end of what you're doing still needs outcomes to come out. So what you could do is perhaps have team meetings, whether it's virtual or starting to be in person now, but have that where everybody in your team starts and gets a voice about how would they do things, sharing about who they are. If these are new team members that you've just mentioned, for starters, have a session where it's like a get to know each other. You know, it could be one quick evening after work, or one quick morning before getting started, about tell us, like, quick fire round, how do you get started in the morning, or favorite fruit, or what do you eat at home, and things like that. It talks about people's personalities a little bit. It's a little fun, it's a little quirky, and it gets people kind of a little bit of breaking that barrier of, oh, I don't know how to approach that person. So that is one way of doing it. And you can have these on a regular basis, you know, whether it's once a week, fortnightly, every couple of weeks, or even once a month, to start having these team get-togethers. So having that would start bringing confidence up in your team members, in your new workforce, so they can feel able to share. So it doesn't just look good on paper, where it looks like people come from different areas, but they actually feel they can share, so it actually impacts what you're doing. And then the other thing you can do, Samantha, is when people offer up their solutions or they speak up in meetings and they offer up a different thing, you present that, you acknowledge it. You say, you know what, I'm going to try that this week. Let's try and do what so-and-so has just suggested. Let's try and incorporate that. Bring someone else up from the team and said, okay, what would you do? Why don't we pair you guys up together to work on this together? How can we make that happen? How can we implement what so-and-so has just said? So it's all about sort of bringing these different ideas together and showing that their voices matter and they're valued as well.
Oh, thank you, Rita. And I'd like us to continue with the question from our follower, and her name is IK. And she's sharing with us pretty interesting and maybe just a bit like sad thing, because she is a manager of the team as well. And she's African American, and her team members are also like from all over the world. Some are local Americans, some are Africans, some are Ukrainians, some are Asians, so literally like absolutely different people. And what she is telling us that she noted that with all these big media hype about differences, about how I different from you, how anyone else, how all we like are different because of how we look, because of our heritage, because of our skin color and everything. She noted that at her team, people started having more like borders between each of them, and some people even feel like embarrassed because of so much attention to how I look instead of what I do. And she's asking how can she help to bring back the unity to her team and to her team to navigate them through all this situation.
Yeah, you know, IK, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's a really, really important point, and it's actually a very good extension from what we've just talked about. So here's the thing, when people are hired from different cultural backgrounds or more minority backgrounds, I would say, the first thing that people think of sometimes is that bias you just mentioned, that, oh, I wonder if they're there just because they happen to be a woman or a person of color, or they identify as some way, you know, whatever that might be. And when you are that person, you don't ever want to be in a position of work where you feel that you're only there because you're a woman or a woman of color, for example. So I think the first and foremost, and this is society in general, even if you fit a certain build, you have to almost earn your stripes. What does that mean? That means that it's hard work, it's resilience, you're getting the trust of your peers. So yes, this does happen a lot when there's people of different backgrounds, but this is the same and true for every new situation. Even if you are, say, an accomplished manager, you are well known, and you are a lateral hire, so you're working now at a different company, you are now the new person. And yes, you might be known for what you do, but then the new people are like, oh, okay, how can we kind of let you into our trust zone? So it's exactly the same thing. It's your hard work, it's your leadership quality, it's sort of leading by doing, Aiko, in your case as well, that would help build that trust to everybody else. So I think when you're trying to build trust in your team, first build trust in yourself, your ability to lead the team, lead by example. So lead by, you don't discriminate by others. At the end of the day, you ask people to share examples, you ask them to share what they're doing and their ideas, and it's the productivity that you judge them on, and their creative ideas and the flexibility as well. And once that starts becoming clear, that example that you're leading by, that's going to filter in your team as well. So I think start with that. That will help also promote to your team that, you know, at the end of the day, we have deadlines here, we have to get this done. So however they got hired and whatnot, ultimately they're there because they're very good at what they do. You've hired them, they're in that position, and now let's get going as a team and make this a good place to work.
Thank you, Rita. It's such a good advice, and as always, guys, it's very good to start from yourself and to think How can I give a good example how I trust myself? Because pretty often what we see around ourselves in some way, it is a reflection of who we are, like there inside. Right, Rita?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And we have one more question for today. And um, this one is similar and a bit different as well. And this question also from our community member. And he's asking, how can I be more proactive listener? Because he noticed that sometimes he pays more attention to how someone looks or how someone behaves and less to what they are talking about. And honestly, sometimes we all have like these biases, and I was facing these like biases pretty often as well, because like as a woman working at the team of engineers like back then, and as a design lead, pretty often I was like facing that someone was looking at me and thinking, all right, it's like a pretty girl, what she can do, like, or
Yeah.
why to listen to her opinion. And this way, and when someone literally wants to overcome this bias, it's super great. And Rita, actually, what can we do? Because every one of us has any kind of biases.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. And, I've got to say thank you for that question. And that's very brave of you to do that, because there are not many people who would admit to that and say, hey, I actually have these biases and this is what I do. So thank you actually for sharing that. You know what? That is human nature in so many ways, what you have just described. People do, ultimately, when you meet somebody for the first time, it takes us approximately 6 seconds to form a view of that person, regardless of what they end up being. And that view sticks. So what you've described is that, in effect, is that bias, but that bias comes from our own value system, our own experiences of that. So that comes usually over time. If you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to see them again. You just end up with that perception of them. But then ultimately, when you have that relationship, that workplace relationship, and, they start coming in as a team member, it's their work. Just have a look at what are they producing. Get over the fact of thinking, oh, naturally I always have, men in my team that I just sort of bring with me to the next meeting. Have a look at the product, have a look at, oh, what are the different viewpoints that could be brought across in the meeting I'm going to present at, rather than, oh, here's my buddy, he always comes with me. Think about, okay, what am I trying to get across? What are the different views that I could take with me? What are the differences I can showcase to show a different thought mentality, rather than what is their background, what is their gender, what do they look like? So start thinking that way. It's something that is going to make you look at the product really and think, okay, I'm just on a clean slate of paper and seeing exactly what it is. And that will ultimately help you in that process. And that will almost force you, if you haven't already started doing it, but force you to start actually listening more. And what is the content on that? And, if you're on the receiving end, and this is a reverse question, if you are on that receiving end, there is nothing that feels worse if you feel that somebody's only judging you based upon your appearance or your voice or your accent or something like that, or something that you're wearing or you're dressing, or something you have in the background. So I think from that perspective as well, that unfortunately, because of that human nature, you just have to work that little bit hard. So, okay, here's my product. Think that somebody else has got a bias because of something else. How do you negate those biases? Okay, it's hard work. It's sort of countering any views and not sort of giving into it, thinking, no, this is what I'm doing. These are the responses to your question. Ask questions. If you feel you've been left behind because of something, ask those reverse questions as well. So, hey, I noticed that you're all going into this meeting. I noticed that, I wasn't invited to this, or something that I just wanted to check if that was an oversight, or if there's something else you wanted from me to be able to go to that meeting. Because sometimes people's biases, they don't even think that we've left you out. And other times it's intentional. So you want to get to the root of it as soon as you possible. So from your perspective as a manager, start thinking it from other sides too. If you are on the receiving end, was there something that you have experienced in your juniors, younger days or years that made you think this way in a way? Because sometimes that is what can cause it. And how did that make you feel? Thinking of that can help you switch that mentality over time.
Oh, thank you, Rita. I'm so happy that we discussed this question at the end of our talk about differences, because guys, anyway, differences are always going out of our comfort zone. And as every one of you knows, the best fruits, the most tastiest results are always behind that comfort zone. Yeah. So please, like get inspired and reflect on this. And I hope that you will go out of your comfort zone and find all the best adventures, all the best things that life have to you.
Absolutely, really well said, Natalie. Totally agree with that. Yeah, you've got to take that risk to kind of see what's out there in the world.
And guys, I can't wait to see you here next time, because we're gonna talk about decency.
Oh, one of my favorite topics, and it's a really natural continuation when we talked about diversity, differences, and decency, about how do you get into the next sort of mind frame of actually wanting to do good by others. So yeah, I love that topic.
All right, thank you so much, and bye everyone. See you next time.
Bye everyone. Thanks, Natalie.